Good evening, everyone. I'm Colton Ching. I'm from the Hawaiian Electric Company. I want to start off by thanking the County of Maui for giving us an opportunity to share with you the things we're doing with our safety strategy. Hopefully, you'll find it informative, and like John mentioned, we'll be ready to answer any questions at the end of the agenda. So let me start off, and Jennifer, maybe if you can go to the next slide, please. So what is our wildfire safety strategy? So Hawaiian Electric's wildfire safety strategy is a 3-year strategy that identifies the plans and actions that our company is going to be taking over the next 3 years. And those strategies were really built driving to achieve the greatest reduction in wildfire ignition risk caused from utility infrastructure while balancing those investments we need to make against affordability and the reliability that we need to serve our customers. And so we made that careful balance, and we really maximized the amount of risk reduction by really focusing our work in areas of communities across the 5 islands that we serve, where we have the highest analyzed risk. And then we focus on the drivers, the things that drive those risks and make them higher, and focus to implement actions and change our operations so that risk gets reduced. We also did it by engaging with community members, government agencies, a lot of partners who informed us of what they've experienced, what they've seen, what they've learned over the years to make our plans and our strategies better. And then our strategy includes a regular annual review of what we're doing, and implementing those improvements as we collect data and learn lessons. We also wanted to make our plan and strategy transparent as we filed it with our state regulator. So our strategy includes estimates of costs and schedules of when we were going to be doing different things in our strategy. So very, very focused. Again, 3 years worth of plans established to really reduce wildfire risk across all 5 islands that we serve. Next slide, please. Now, as broad and comprehensive as we try to make our wildfire safety strategy, it's really focused on Hawaiian Electric risks and the risk of Hawaiian Electric infrastructure becoming a source of ignition that may lead into a fire of some kind. And there are a lot of things we're going to be talking about today, but it's all focused on this upper left-hand corner, just around ignition management, around utility infrastructure. As a community, we all have a role to play, and there are many things that ultimately impacts wildfire risk in all of our communities. Ignition management being a really important piece up in the upper left, but it also includes fuels management, which includes things like creating fire breaks and limiting the fuel loadings that can occur in different properties. It includes planning our different communities for better egress and ingress, fire codes, building codes that can reduce the ignitability of structures and then reduce the speed of fire spread, as well as things like fire suppression, right? The things you do that you can have in place to manage a fire when it does occur and reduce the impact to different areas and communities. So all of that together impacts and towards a reduction in wildfire risk to all of our communities. What I'm going to be covering over the next 15 minutes is really focused on Hawaiian Electric infrastructure in the top left quadrant. Next slide, please. So our strategy was organized around what we call 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars are things that we're going to be doing over the next 3 years to harden and redesign our grid. That's the first pillar. The second is around expanding and improving our situational awareness of our infrastructure that's deployed across the entire state. The third is to improve our operational practice in how we operate our electric system, but also how we stand up operations so that we're more aware of what's happening in the environment with weather and other things. And then last but not least, the 4th pillar is around continuing to engage with our communities, with our stakeholders, with emergency agencies, with county and state partners to make sure that our plans are as good as it can be and also to ensure that our plans and the actions that we take are coordinated with other organizations, government agencies, other utility owners as well. We want to make sure what we're doing is supportive and complementary to everyone else's plans. So those are the 4 pillars. So I'll spend a little bit of time going into them over the next several slides. Next slide, please. The first, as I mentioned, is to harden and redesign the grid. And this is probably the thing that people think about immediately. This includes things like upgrading our existing electric infrastructure, things like installing what's called covered conductors, electric wires that are insulated and protected against brushing of the ground or vegetation that could then potentially become an ignition source. It also includes undergrounding and then also replacing equipment that could, when in operation, cause a spark in its performance of its roles. On the right, you can see some pictures of undergrounded duct banks, some covered conductors there as well as more robust poles being installed that are much stronger and able to withstand much higher wind speeds. These hardening efforts also have the side benefit of improving reliability on the circuits that they're part of. So that's a double benefit that's associated with grid hardening. Next slide. The second pillar, as I mentioned, expanding and improving situational awareness. This includes the deployment of very unique new infrastructure, weather stations that are located directly on our poles, so we know exactly what kind of weather our lines and circuits are exposed to. There's an example of a picture on the right. We're also deploying video cameras so that we have view planes of our infrastructure in higher wildfire risk areas. These cameras have 360-degree view capability. They're augmented with artificial intelligence, so it can look for telltale signs of what may be a fire and then flag operators that are manning a facility 24/7 to investigate to determine indeed whether or not there is a smoke or a fire occurring. We're also going to be standing up, beginning this year, a watch office. And this is an office separate from our folks that operate the grid 24/7. But this watch office is going to operate 24/7 to look at the cameras, to man the weather, to do updated forecasts of weather, to understand what our infrastructure is supposed to, not just now, but in future periods of time, so we can adjust our operations to reduce those risks. And then last but not least, it includes what's called development of an operational wildfire risk model. So some of the leading electric utilities have the ability to, in a near real-time basis, provide updated wildfire risk models based upon weather conditions and field conditions that are being experienced out there, and forecast over the next hour or the next day or the next week what those conditions could be so that we can best prepare and set up our system to deal with those kinds of events. Next slide. A big part of that work results in our ability to create updated wildfire risk maps. And so what we've done in developing this strategy, and really in part to make sure that we're achieving the greatest amount of wildfire risk as quickly as possible in our strategy, we took a step to take a lot of information, geographic data, historical fire data, historical and forecasted future weather conditions. We looked at the inventory of our assets, where they're located relative to prevailing wind directions and where our customers are located. And then we identified areas of each of our islands that have a higher, medium, and lower risk to having an ignition that could cause a wildfire. And so on the next slide, please, Jennifer, here's what that effort to do wildfire risk mapping is for Maui County. So you can see in red for Maui and Molokai, the areas that the risk modeling identified higher levels or the highest level of wildfire risk and consequences. The yellow shows that medium risk areas, and then in gray are lowest risk areas. And it's not to say that fires can only occur in a high or medium area, but really this is developed to help us understand how we should best prioritize all of the work that we have planned over the years so that we can maximize risk reduction as quickly as possible. Next slide. So I talked about cameras, I talked about weather stations. This just gives you a visual of where those weather stations and cameras are located. This is from a map from the end of 2024. And you can see that our weather stations are located in the areas that are noted in red across all 3 counties, because these are the circuits of greatest risk. We really want to make sure we know what's going on each of those circuits real time, so that we can make good decisions on how to operate the grid. And the cameras, some of them are within those risk areas, sometimes they're away from it. It's really there so that we have a good view of our infrastructure that's in high and medium risk areas. Okay, so here's an example of our weather station. This is a photo of a weather station on Oahu, but on the right, you can see an example, a real example of what a weather station is sensing and collecting and reporting. So this is from a weather station located on Lahaina Luna Road. This is real data. You can see in this case, wind speed and wind gusts, as well as wind direction. In this example, later on, I'll show you QR codes. This data is accessible by everyone. And if there's time, I can actually give you a demonstration of what that webpage looks like. Thank you. So these are examples of our AI cameras. Comes in slightly different forms. Sometimes they're mounted on poles in our substation. Sometimes they're mounted on poles out there in the field. Sometimes we have some portable ones located to fill in gaps where we don't have infrastructure or property to place a camera, and we place them in a location that's owned by someone else, and then we work in agreement with them to place a camera there. As you can see in that last photo of that portable station, they can be powered by solar, they can be powered by the grid. They all have battery backup, including the weather stations. So the cameras and the weather stations can operate even if there's an outage on that associated power line. Next slide. So some QR codes and web links to Alert West, which is our AI camera system, a QR code and web link to Synoptic, which is where our weather stations data is being inventoried and displayed. And then on the right, I haven't spoken to it, but this is a QR code and link to an app, a free app that anyone can download, Apple or Android. And the app called Watch Duty provides a lot of really important information for folks so they can get notified of any fire ignition that occurs within any designated area that they have or where they happen to be located. And as part of that, all of our cameras are on the Watch Duty app. So you can actually download the app, click on one of our cameras, and actually see what a camera is seeing. Next slide, please, Jennifer. The third pillar, improving operational practices. This includes things like EFT, which stands for Enhanced Fast Trip. Enhanced Fast Trip is these more sensitive and safer settings that we've deployed on our circuits in areas of highest wildfire risk, so those areas that were noted in red in that earlier map, as well as in areas noted in yellow in those map in medium areas, where these settings are in place to more quickly shut off circuits if the circuit sensors detect a problem with the circuit. And the reason for these settings and the benefit of these settings is that by operating more quickly, it reduces the amount of electrical energy that gets transmitted to anything that might be touching one of our lines, regardless of what may be the cause, right? A tree branch brushing our line, a car hitting a pole, causing the pole to fall, conductors falling, whatever it may be, Mylar balloon from graduation, all of those things will be detected. The sensors shut off the circuits immediately and reduces the amount of energy that then can lead to an ignition, therefore reducing the risk and likelihood of ignition occurring in the first place. The other operational practice, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the next slide, is public safety power shutoffs. And hopefully you all are familiar with that program, but it's an enhancement and even more proactive approach to improving safety to our customers in our highest risk areas in red, where when certain conditions of high threat to our circuits that could cause ignition. And these conditions are persistent drought conditions where our weather stations are seeing wind gusts of 45 miles per hour higher, and where those weather stations are seeing locally in that circuit where relative humidity is below 45%. And if we exceed the thresholds for any one of our circuits in those red areas, then our incident commander, as part of our response, may make the decision to proactively shut off power to that circuit. And by proactively shutting off power to the circuit under those extreme conditions, very, very low humidity, very, very high winds, even if something were to contact our line because they're de-energized, those lines cannot be a source of ignition, and we've eliminated the risk of a wildfire occurring as a result of something coming into contact with our lines. There's a lot of other things that are part of improving operational practices. There are things like enhancing our trimming of vegetation, accelerating the pace in which we do inspections of our assets. There were some images of that in the last slide. And then one of the neat things that we're doing today is really leveraging even more than before the use of aerial drones to assist us with that inspection work. And so now we have qualified drone operators as well as drones based on Maui, not just on the island of Oahu, that can assist our crews with doing these inspections, as well as assist us with doing field surveys to see if there's any damage following a windstorm. Next slide, please. Last but not least, the fourth pillar, strengthen our stakeholder and community partnership. We've been working at this for over a year now. It started over a year ago where we held a symposium, bringing in folks from all over the state, utilities from across the mainland in Australia, wildfire experts from the universities, as well as in private industry and in government, to really share what are some of the risks and what are some of the best practices around reducing wildfire risks. And since then, since April of last year, we've conducted over 100 in-person and virtual meetings with partners, community groups, as well as the public at large, to share what we're doing, but also to get input on our plans to make our plans even better. And Jennifer, maybe if you can scroll over the next couple of slides, just here are some examples of some of really pretty folks from Hawaiian Electric participating in some of these meetings, and very enthusiastic and very open to hear and very appreciative of what folks have to say and input they provided. One thing before I end, just want to give a heads up. Sorry, Jennifer, back one slide, please. Just want to give folks a heads up. On May 3rd, which is a Saturday at Lahaina Intermediate, we're going to be holding a West Maui Emergency Preparedness Open House. We're going to be presenting there, but MEMA will also be presenting, MFD and HWMO, the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, which is a nonprofit that focuses on wildfire prevention and awareness. They'll be giving presentations, and there's going to be a lot of tables where you can interact with folks from all of these organizations that morning. So if you're free and available, I really encourage you to join us on May 3rd. And last slide. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. So just thank you, everyone. More information about our wildfire safety strategy can be found right on our website, hawaiianelectric.com/wildfire safety. It's my email address. It's my real email address. If any questions, any comments, any suggestions, send them over to me if we can't get through them tonight. And here are the same three QR codes that I showed earlier. Also added a fourth one, which is a brand new video that we just published that shows basic or covers basically what I did tonight, but it has some really, really nice visuals to go along with it. And I'm pretty sure they presented it a lot better than I did tonight. So it's a good video to watch.
Hey Colton, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did you say you could show us something if you had
I
time?
can. Yeah, if there's
Can you,
time, I can share with you.
if you can do it
Um,
in 5 minutes, I think that would be great.
I can do that. Give me
Okay.
1 second. Okay. Okay. Can you guys all see the screen?
I can see it.
Okay. Okay. So here's an example of one of our weather cameras. And in this map in the middle of Maui, you can see all the locations that we have for, I'm sorry, with our video cameras. Um, I've selected here the Wailea camera, so it's kind of at the Makena side of Wailea, and in this case, on the upper left, it's looking towards Kihei Malaya. On the bottom, you can see that 360 view that the camera also has. I'm showing you the Wailea Makena camera because there actually was a fire earlier today in the afternoon that the camera did pick up. So I'll show you a short video loop. I think it covers a couple of hours where you can actually see that fire. So hopefully you guys can follow the video. So that was a pretty short fire. That fire was not related to Hawaiian Electric infrastructure. But these cameras can be used by anyone. On the right, you can see that Maui Fire actually took control of the camera. They zoomed in. You can see how initially the camera view was much zoomed out. They zoomed into where the AI initially picked up the smoke, and then could kind of focus in on the area. The folks from MFD and other county fire departments have told us it's been very helpful to them. I think MFD has probably been the greatest user of all the fire departments of our cameras, helps them get situational awareness from locations other than right there on site. So it really helps in overall management of response. And of course, for our guys, it really helps us as we're looking at conditions out into the field. So this is an example of the cameras, and we could do it for all of the camera locations. In here, and I think you guys can still see the screen, this is page that shows Hawaiian Electric's weather stations. So I picked just Hawaiian Electric's weather stations. This page actually shows weather stations from National Weather Service, from the University of Hawaii, and others as well. But here you can see I picked, I'll go back out, and you can see I'm picking the Lahainaluna weather station right on Lahainaluna Road. Is bringing up the latest, in this case, temperature, dew point, and relative humidity data. I can have it pick wind. It shows you wind most recently, wet bulb. Both the Alert West page for the cameras as well as this page for the weather stations. We use them. First responders use them, but anyone from the public can have access to these pages as well. So if you click on, or if you use a QR code, you too can take a look at it and peruse through these pages as well. So that was it, John, in terms of what to share.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that live demonstration.